to the WDW News Today Podcast. My name is Eric Morton. With me, of course, Tom Corliss, and a special guest, back by popular demand, Mark Brickey of Hey Brickey, and what's your other channel called now?
New channel's called the Brickey Vlog.
The Brickey Vlog.
Yeah.
He's got twice the fun.
Twice the fun. Thanks for having me back. Everybody, when I said I was coming out here, was like, you better do another podcast with the guys. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. No, that's big for you, right? Now you're doing a video every day?
I've posted a video every day since May 24th.
No days off, or you?
No days off.
And you keep your main channel going?
Main channel every Saturday, the other channel the other 6 days.
Your video editors must be exhausted.
Yeah, he is, because I am me. Because I am me. Oh, boy.
We can talk a little bit about why you're out here and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, we got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
I even have to catch up with Tom because I haven't seen you in a long time. I was supposed to meet you in Hong Kong. That didn't happen.
Someone was mad at me about it. Can I just talk about this real quick?
Really?
I got a message. It's like, why didn't you let Eric go to Hong Kong? I was like, I didn't stop him. I actively tried to get him to still go after. Can you, right here and now, set the record straight as to what your travel plans were and what happened?
Sure. So my travel plans were I went on a cruise, in the Mediterranean. So I did Italy and
A Disney
Greece on a Disney fantasy. I did 3 days in Rome, and then the idea was I was going to fly from Rome to Hong Kong, and we were going to get there actually a couple hours apart.
Yeah.
I was flying on Qatar Airways through Doha because it was the easiest way to go. And I was watching because once my cruise started, as soon as my cruise started, Israel and Iran started trading missile barrages. So I'm watching this conflict kind of from my phone being like, oh, this could impact my trip potentially. I don't know. And finally we get to the day before, and I'm like, and everything's looking kind of like I'm going to go. I check in for the flight. I go out to eat. Tom sends me a message.
Well, in between,
like,
of course, the United States then bombed the nuclear facilities.
Oh, yes, that did happen.
And so then it was like, oh, well, now this is a problem. And then...
So I'm out to eat, and Tom messages me a screenshot or a Twitter link that basically all these flights, anything going anywhere past the Middle East in any direction, flights are canceled, grounded.
Yeah.
Flights to Qatar are being diverted to other airports. And I'm like, okay, even if my flight doesn't get canceled, I could get diverted to like some backwoods airport somewhere in the Middle East where they don't have signs in English. I don't know anything about what I'm doing. Yeah. Because Doha is a very modern, fancy airport, but who knows where they could put me. And I'm like, oh, that could be really inconvenient. And then I could potentially have to fly back to Europe or who knows. So
flying near that zone in the midst of all that probably just feels unsafe.
Well,
you don't know what anyone's going to do. Either side of that equation.
When you're over there, the world feels pretty small, right? Like there are parts of that voyage where we are in parts of Greece where I look and we're like a couple 100 miles from Israel, where a lot of this is going on. Yeah. And of course, nobody's really noticing what's going on. There's certainly a lot of public sentiment about things and graffiti and stuff in some of the towns we went to. I was like, "Ooh, this is top of mind around here," and you're like, "Well, yeah." Anyway. Yeah. So I called Tom, or Tom called me, I don't remember. I'm in Rome, and I was like, what do you think I should do? Should I just pull the ripcord on this? Should I, whatever? And Tom goes, oh, crap. He refreshes the news. He's like, they're bombing Qatar now. And I'm like, well, that seals it. I'm not doing that one. So actually, at this point, I'm at like 7% battery. I'm somewhere in Rome where I have no signal. So I messaged Lori. I was like, here's all my flight information. Can you help me deal with the customer service to get this canceled? And she's working feverishly to do that. Now, separately from that, I still had my return flight to Miami booked.
From Italy.
Because my plan was to go ahead and cancel it the next day and be like, let me just get a credit for this, whatever. So then it was like, well, I guess I'll just fly back to the States, because any airline that I changed to was still going to have to fly through that area, and the flights were all a mess, and there were all backups and cancellations, and I was like, I guess this is ruined. So then Lori goes, Tom said you can still fly out to Hong Kong, and I'm like, Okay, but now
Yeah, because the flights, you wouldn't get here in time for the flight I took leaving. But what was funny is all the flights were pretty much locked at that price still. Like they never had gone up.
Yeah, and then it became like, wasn't price. I was like, I figured out I probably wouldn't be able to get there until basically at least a day and a half to 2 days after Tom got there, right? Because I still have to fly back from Europe. And I'm thinking, okay, so not only is there a delay, it's already kind of a short trip for that long flight. 6 days 6 days sounds like it's plenty at Hong Kong Disneyland to do everything.
It is.
But now we're talking about 4 days. And if you count my flight back from Italy, that's me in the air for 40 hours to spend 4 days
And
somewhere.
one of those
that
days
doesn't
was
sound
a
like
full
great-
work day, mind you.
Right. And it's like, I just don't know. It seems like it might not be a great use of company funds. I could still get a refund on those flights. And that's what I ended up doing. And pretty sad about it, right? Also, I was not flying back with the rest of my party. So they were all flying Delta. I was flying ETA. They were all flying Delta and ending up in Orlando. I was flying ETA and ending up in Miami, taking the Bright Line. The travel plans are all a mess, and there are reasons for that. I did vlog, kind of. I do have videos of everything. I don't know what the appetite is for this audience to actually be forced to watch all my travel videos. I have edited them. I have
We
them.
should put them on the TV channel.
Yeah, if people want to see them, or we could do a podcast episode where I show Tom all my travel videos of going on this cruise. But
Yeah, we could do that.
because some of them are 5 minutes long, some are 10 minutes long. There's about 5 of them. But anyway, it's weird the way timing is, because then I get to Miami. I made a Brightline train to Orlando from Miami by seconds, like stuck my leg in the door as it was closing. Get on the Brightline, get to Orlando. Lee has landed in Orlando, got her baggage, and took the not shuttle, their little people move, whatever it's called now, the Gate Link. Is that what they call the APM? They used to call it the APM. Now it's called the Gate Link, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, she gets out to Terminal C where the Brightline station is as I'm getting off the train. So like the timing was perfect for us all to like meet back up.
That's impressive.
Everything else, but yeah, I was very sad. She, by the way, not at all sympathetic. Not sad. She's like, I'm glad you're coming home. I didn't want you to go there without me to Hong Kong. Whatever. So
Wow.
that was a thing. And at no point, I didn't really feel like, hey, Iran is going to target an airliner from Qatar and shoot it down. But I certainly wouldn't put it past them to do it on accident. Thinking they were shooting something else down. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my
Either
my
way,
boring
like,
story about that.
another place you're getting rerouted to could be the next target. Like, who knows? Like, either way, you probably just don't want to fly over or near countries that are currently at war. Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just not comfortable.
And also, so the alternative routes are like, oh, I could fly north and fly through Russia and the Ukraine. Or I could fly south and go through like Syria or maybe Yemen. And you're like, man, there's just no good way to get there, right? So it wasn't in the cards for me this time, and I'm sad, but oh well. If you want us to do the travel vlog videos, we'll do an episode on it, maybe if there's an appetite for it with people. Otherwise, I'm happy
That's
to
what
do
happened. I didn't stop Eric from going to Hong Kong.
No.
I actively even tried to get him to still come, and at that point, he was like, "No, I'm tired."
That's a lot of
That's
flying.
part of it. Let's not like. Part of it was you had just been on a European trip, and that's like you just said, your travel
11-hour flight.
Your travel day did not sound particularly fun.
11-hour
and
flight.
so to then have a 18-hour travel day after that, I mean that's a lot.
It's
Yeah.
more than 40 hours of travel, really, if you think about it. That's a lot of flying. So that's a lot of bad airline food. I want to call out our friend Ryan, who sent Tom and I these 3D printed 3D logos. These are really cool.
Get it? They're
From Bucket Vision
3D
3D.
printed.
It's 3D.
Get it?
I don't have a stick, but you get the idea. Thank you very much, Ryan. These are super cool.
I like the stand that has it's the marquee, but it has the ears.
Yeah. Ryan sent us something else, though,
Yes.
because, we do snacks and things on the show. You want to describe these, Tom?
So when I was a kid, and Ghostbusters Ghostbusters is a thing again now, I guess. There was a drink from Hi-C called Ecto Cooler. You know Ecto
I know that.
Cooler, right?
Yeah.
So Ecto Cooler, even after the movies, when just the cartoon was on television, you could still go to the supermarket and get Ecto Cooler. It had Slimer on the packaging. You couldn't miss it. And I would dare say it was probably one of the most popular flavors of Hi-C
Oh, yeah.
juice that was available. And then suddenly one day you went to the store and it was gone and we all cried. But luckily, a lot of kids that resonated with them and a lot of people have made their own version of Ecto Cooler. There's alcoholic versions. At this point, there's the beer that's at Horror Nights, right? So what is this? This is another who you gonna drink Endo Cooler.
And then it
Sounds
says
right?
in pizza over. I don't know why it says in pizza. Who you gonna drink in pizza?
He did message me.
Endo
I should
Cooler.
probably read and make sure I have all the information
Okay.
about this beverage before we drink it. This is a non-alcoholic one, though, I assume, right? This is not like the
Yeah, I
Horror
think
Nights
so.
one.
10% juice. I know that.
10% juice. By the time I find this message,
200 calories.
that's a lot. It's a lot of juice.
Filtered water, sugar, orange juice, a frozen concentrate, tangerine juice from concentrate, natural flavors, citric acid, some other mallow acid. What is that?
Oh, here we go.
Ascorbic acid, et cetera, et cetera.
Pretty big. I know that you're a pretty big Ghostbusters fan. There is a pizza chain that is regional to up here in the Northeast called And Pizza that has a limited edition soda. Oh, it's a soda based on Ecto Cooler. It isn't carbonated at all, so it's really more of a juice. So this is And Pizza is the name of the chain
Okay.
of pizza restaurants, and they've made a drink that is inspired by Ecto Cooler, which includes filtered water, sugar, orange juice from concentrate, tangerine juice from concentrate, natural flavors, citric acid, malic acid,
Ascorbic acid.
ascorbic. Yeah, I don't read the ingredients on all that things. Ascorbic acid, vitamin C, potassium citrate, FD&C yellow number 5, and FD&C blue number 1.
What could go wrong?
Sounds healthy. And pizza.
And pizza. I don't
Yeah,
know.
now knowing the name of the establishment, the can makes a lot more sense.
And yeah. Give everybody a little. The color looks right
Yep.
to me.
Got the color down. Mountain Dew yellow.
Very green. All right.
Shall
Cheers,
we?
boys.
Cheers. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Tastes like Ecto Cooler.
Tastes
Yeah.
like Ecto Cooler.
That's great.
Maybe the only difference is that there's more of a real juice flavor, honestly. I know you said 10% juice, but I remember Ecto Cooler being a little more artificial, perhaps.
You ever see the guy that bought Ecto Cooler on like eBay, like unopened
Really old, yeah.
old
And
Ecto
drank
Cooler
it.
and drank it like
Oh,
on a
man.
live stream and didn't go great.
Man, when real Ecto Cooler came back, that was the only good thing about that all-female Ghostbusters movie. But either way.
Yeah, we need real Ecto Cooler back, and we need Pudding Pops back. Those are my two big things, right?
They're going to have to get a new spokesperson.
Yeah, they can't use Bill Cosby anymore. But. All right. Well, we
Katie
had
has no idea what we're talking about. It's for the best. Trust us.
we had a pretty big weekend.
Yeah.
4th of July, a lot went down. There was allegedly a tropical storm that really didn't materialize in Florida, and a little bit of rain here and there. You were at Fort Wilderness, Tom,
We're camping.
in a tent.
Yeah.
I would pay money to have seen that. I just feel like Tom in a tent. It's just, I feel like you would have been miserable.
Rosanna is real big on camping, and she had this she bought a super expensive tent and beds for us, and so it wasn't, we
Beds?
weren't slumming it. Well, they're inflatable. Little inflatable beds.
Hot though.
It was hot, but I will tell you, it was a terrible idea for me to book. I booked it because it was available. I was like, 4th of July, we go see the golf cart parade and everything. That'll be great. And she's like, do you know what it's going to feel like? I was like, yeah, I know it'll be bad, but it's 4th of July. And she's like, okay. But she made it happen. All the equipment was hers. I did nothing but book it. And she made the rest happen.
She set up the tent without
And it
you.
was an incredible. Yeah, she had to actually, because I got back late Wednesday from Hong Kong, and then Thursday we do a show. I don't know if you know that, but Thursday ended up being a very busy day at the office, and so I thought I was going to have time with her middle of the day to go set it up. We didn't end up getting our check-in text from Disney until like 5:30, which, by the way, check-in time at Fort Wilderness is 3 p.m. That's 2.5 hours late. So at that point, there wasn't enough time to
They were
go.
still cleaning the campsite. They had a guy
It's
with
just
a rake.
a lot. Look, those cast members work hard, but again, like, or someone hoses down the pad.
The rocks.
They clean out the little the what's the word I'm looking for?
Barbecue grill.
The grill. Like there's not a lot to do there. I'm sure they're understaffed. I would bet you anything they're very understaffed, and that's why it takes so long. But also, it's probably the place on Disney property with the most late checkouts. Like not purposefully, and not that they call ahead and ask. Just like people think it takes less time to break everything down. And what if you're Disney? What do? Like you can't push them off the pad. Like, get out! Like we're trying. So anyway, so it was super late. So she ended up going, and she's more than capable. She's done it in a lot of real places. I wouldn't call Fort Wilderness a real camping place. It's a little more,
a little more elevated.
Yeah,
a little more glampy than some.
I would say. They used to have a non-glampy site at Fort. There used to be. Back in the day, there was that group. Yeah, the Primitive. It was also the group camping site, which I don't even think had electrical hookups or anything. And it wasn't even a pad. It's the ground. That's gone now. But either way, it was really, the weather worked to our advantage. I think it rained like just before we went to bed that night. And so it was kind of cool for July in Orlando. It was not uncomfortable.
How was the parade?
It's fun. It's not as good as Halloween.
Yeah.
Halloween.
People go all out.
This one's more people just like, oh, we'll buy bunting and we'll throw it on the cart and then we'll drive down the street. For Halloween, you have to pick a theme, right? You have to pick a.
They also do it for Christmas? Or that's just that you decorate your lot?
Christmas is just they go nuts decorating.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, Halloween, they go crazy decorating too. Someone did like a whole walk through Haunted Mansion and they made them stop it. They're like, you can't have an attraction. You can't buy a campsite and turn it into a walk-through attraction for 2 months. Please don't do that. And so I think they sold it off. I think you could have went on eBay and bought and super intricate scenes they bought.
Wow.
You could have went on eBay and bought them because they were like, well, I don't know what to do with this now. We're not allowed to have it anymore at Fort. But the golf cart parade in July is still really fun, but it's not, people don't go as crazy as Halloween. That being said, someone built a working tank. So
excuse me?
It fired water, but he built the whole thing and he was able to like from the bottom pull a thing and it shot water and it looked like a full tank.
That's great.
They did not win. And I remember everyone was very angry. And I go, look, if you're a Disney manager and you're voting for the winner of the golf cart parade, is now the best time to pick a tank?
Yeah,
for the winner.
Of war.
The optics are not great on choosing the violent icon. So what did win actually was somebody had a cart covered with the 7 dwarves, and then also they had replicas of every sign at Fort. So each of the like Quail Trail and Spanish Moss Lane and all of those, and then also they had the strawberry shortcake signs from Hoop.
Oh, really?
It was really cute, and then. My favorite, they ended up getting second place, Carousel of Progress. So they made the big cog and they put on the front, but then the person in the passenger seat, they like cut out cardboard to look like a bathtub, and they were Uncle Orville. So from the side of the golf cart, it looked like he was in the tub reading the newspaper. I was like, oh, that's really cute. I love that. They got second, and I think then there was a Regal Eagle Smokehouse.
Oh, wow.
With Sam Eagle. It was a full cardboard head of Sam Eagle on the top, which was very cute. So those were all those 3 in the tank all deserve to be in the top 4 places. The tank probably should have won, but I understand why if you're a manager.
Branding.
I don't want that to be the number 1. When people walk down to the beach tonight, I don't want to see that number 1 next to the war machine.
Yeah, I mean that's unfortunate, but I get it.
Still fun, but Halloween is the one you want to go to.
You also went to Hoop-de-Doo?
It was Rosanna's first time.
Did they do a special like Independence Weekend?
Well, we went on
themed
July 5th.
episode?
No, we were there on July 5th. We went to Hoop, and she loved it. And who wouldn't? It's magical.
I know I've heard people say they don't really like it. I think it's great.
That and the water pageant are the 2 most pure pieces of 70s Disney World. In an age where we want to talk about losing 70s Disney World, especially we're going to talk about the rivers and the riverboat and Tom Sawyer Island. If you still want to relive that magic, I think the water pageant and Hoop-de-Doo are the 2 things you can do and it still feels like it.
The water pageant is so great though. Like the way the music sounds, like just the bare bones structure of it all. Like it's just like somebody had an idea, they executed it, and it's still ripping 50 years later. One of my favorite Walt Disney World oddities though, in the opening day special that aired on NBC, the Fort Wilderness section with Jonathan Winters is out there, man. It is crazy.
Oh, is he like getting mad at
He's
the
like
family?
fighting with his wife, right? Or she's like,
She like twitches out
or something.
There's something wrong with her.
She twitches out and she just like walks out in the Seven Seas Lagoon and never comes back.
Just like full catatonic.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
Right.
You know, the only thing that made me like, it's sad that the river went away. It's very sad. The only nostalgic moment I had was someone posted the clip from the opening special of what's his name playing the guitar. Glenn Campbell playing the guitar on the riverbank, and I was like, oh man.
He walks over to the guillotine and goes, "Freedom. Freedom isn't free," or something like that. You know? Yeah.
The opening special's amazing.
It's great. I've watched it so many times.
It's actually kind of bad, but also when he almost falls, like you see him keep looking for the monorail to come by in that opening shot, and he just keeps going. And he's walking, and he hits like a divot, and he goes like this.
Yeah, he's just walking in a field, and they're doing like an aerial shot, and it looks like he's a drifter out there.
He's out by like I think where the Grand Floridian would eventually be. He's over there somewhere, and they're like, "Well, this is an empty field. Just have him. It'll look like he's in the middle of nowhere." And then suddenly, this space age monorail will come zooming by. But again, like instead of someone cueing him as to when the monorail's coming, he keeps looking.
Yeah,
he's like, "Where is it?"
Yeah, and he's playing a guitar while he's walking through a field.
And so he almost falls,
But did he play his guitar while he's in the stocks?
No, he did not do that.
Freedom isn't free.
Like he just walks up to the camera. It's great.
I have a great picture of my dog in the stocks.
Oh, really?
I did like the Animal Planet did a thing at Disney World where you got to bring your dog.
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I got a little. She was a little pug.
Yeah.
Her and her. It's great. Good times.
Did the arms reach?
No, the arms did not reach.
Say.
She just put her head through. It was cute.
Something else I learned about that opening special is the Bob Hope segment. They filmed the rooms that they had done at the Contemporary, so everything above them is still during construction, and all of the guests that are there are all cast members wearing like their Sunday best. Like it's all staged to make it look like it's ready to go.
A lot of polyester.
Yeah, it's
And
awesome.
he has the least Disney joke that's ever aired on a Disney special. Wow, so this is where the Goodyear blimp comes for mating season.
Yeah.
Which is the greatest line ever.
And then at the end, he does like a little sentimental like nod to Walt,
Yeah.
But it's like you can't take anything that he says serious. Like, is Bob Hope being serious right now?
After that Goodyear blimp line, you can't take anything serious. Yeah.
Some of that really old stuff I love. There was remember the new Mickey Mouse Club when they had the thing where they're at Fort Wilderness and they're at the Contemporary in the Fiesta Fun Center. They have Lisa Welchel, who was Blair on The Facts of Life, is like young in this and is one of the main kids. I love all that old stuff where you see this, you're like, oh, I know where that is. Oh, I have bad news for them. That's Steakhouse 71 now,
Fiesta Food and Fun Center.
It's funny because the Sunday night TV show switches over to NBC. So there's like a period where you always know where that show's being aired because everybody they promote is NBC talent.
Yeah.
Like I was rewatching the opening of Captain EO at Disneyland and like everybody coming down Main Street, it's all NBC talent. And it's like, oh, all right, that's the Sunday night shows over there now. It's no longer on ABC.
It's so weird to think of that because then obviously Disney buys ABC, so you just always assume
That it
But
stayed
that
there.
era you
Yeah.
watch, you're like, oh yeah, they were not a conglomerate themselves. They weren't in the TV game until they then were.
But just the idea that you end up owning the TV station that loans you money to build your theme park,
Yeah.
like
It's
it's such a
a
good
good
full
story.
circle story.
There's a lot of those like great moments of those old TV. John Ritter, Willard Scott, the Maelstrom thing.
Yeah.
There's some wild, like just bizarre stuff.
When you hear his name, do you not instantly think of Smucker's Jelly?
No, you have to. And someone turning 100 years old.
No, he was the original Ronald McDonald.
Was he?
He was, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. What a career.
Yeah.
What a career.
Did he live long enough to get Smucker's? We got to go to Google.
Now, for the record, you can be any age and have Smucker. I know what you meant, but I just want to make sure everyone knows.
Did he hit 100?
Smucker's
Is that
is
what you're
available to all ages.
Says on the
Did
jar.
he get Smuckered?
100 and older.
Did he get? I want to Google.
No.
Did Willard Scott get smuckered?
No. He was 87 years old.
He didn't
Oh,
make it.
man.
He
14
He didn't
years
make
away.
it to the
He
big
just
jar.
got the Welch's grape jelly. No Smuckers for Willard Scott.
This has been the old man hour.
Yeah, for sure it has been.
Katie's just nodding. He's like, I don't know anything they're talking about. I have no idea.
You know what? I hate these kids and their music. Sorry.
But honestly, when you talk about the rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island and the riverboat at Walt Disney World, you think of the 70s, and you know, I think it puts you in a very certain frame of mind, which that opening special does too. That opening special is very 1971. Just look what Julie Andrews is wearing.
Oh, yeah.
It's, yeah.
I also love when the dancers go by Tomorrowland.
And it's the wall.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, we put in the script that we have all these lands, so let them just run and jump past the bridge. But it's interesting, like Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island specifically getting removed. Like that's a very 1971 concept because back then kids played outside, you tree houses, forts, and all this stuff. So when you think about like, oh, kids need a play area. Today's kids, I mean, I'm sure somebody will argue with this, but largely, like that's just kind of like a lost thing, you know, just the way that society's adapted. And, you know, a lot of kids don't do the old be home when the street lights come on. I mean, kids do a lot of
free-range
virtual
parenting.
Yeah, they do a lot of virtual play and all that stuff. The world's changed, so is parenting. So it's like when you think about that area being transformative, it's like it has to fit the needs of a new generation, and it feels like a lost, you know, piece of Americana, and you know. It was never meant to be a museum. It was always on the evolution. So here we stand.
I think accessibility is the main thing that always worked against it, though.
Yeah.
I think that had a greater chance of surviving if it had been in two ways accessible. Number one, just simply that you could walk to it. And secondly, ADA. I never really thought about what a pain it is to enjoy that island with a chair until I just recently tried to take my parents for their farewell visit. And honestly, my mother like couldn't go anywhere on the island. And so you think about it that way, and you're like in an era where you have to be conscious of that for people. It is real hard to fight for the continued existence of Tom Sawyer Island. And I know people want to bring up the conversation of why didn't you just update the island? Well, the point at that juncture, when you're going to invest that kind of money,
Right.
does it not make sense to go big and do something that's going to help, you know, be there for every guest of every age, of every type?
No.
You know, I'm not saying cars is the answer. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying the idea to like, let's start over with this space makes sense to me.
I'm curious because it is sort of a time capsule within, or it was sort of a time capsule. How much of that changed since opening day?
Just things got taken
They
away.
changed the name of Fort.
Same as Disneyland, where
Yeah.
as lawyers became a thing and it became more of a corporation, people would go out there and look and be like, I don't know if this is safe.
Well, back home, Tom Sawyer Island is the most like litigious part of the park.
Yeah.
There's been more lawsuits at Tom Sawyer Island than any other part of Disneyland, just because of the natural, you know,
Uneven
playing
terrain,
around,
yeah.
running around. Like you're going to twist an ankle, you're going to miss a step, you know. But yeah, at Disneyland there was a little bit of a refurbishment to put the Pirates theme in there.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's pretty much the same, and it goes down as the only attraction that Walt designed himself. But I think he just kind of drew the map of it, and I don't think he actually did the architecture drawings or anything, but mapped it out.
I mean, it was Fort Sam Clemens, and they changed it to Fort Langhorne. Mm-hmm. They hung a new sign. As far as I know, other than like putting vending machines at Aunt Polly's instead of like staff, I can't think of any major changes.
I think
to
things
that.
were like the playground was redone. There's very specifically what you would call a playground. It is a structure that has, I think it had a slide at one point. It didn't anymore as of this weekend. But it had like a place you could like grab two bars. I don't know what that's called. You grab the bars and you could fly off the side, like a standard playground device that was themed. I don't think that was original. I tend to believe originally we had, what is the stuff you think of when you think of the Tom Sawyer Island at other parks, like the little teetering rock and all of that. I think we had all of that.
The
at
cave.
some point.
That's the thing I always think.
The
of.
caves are the main thing, and those stayed. Those were widened at some point. I will tell you, They absolutely were widened at some point in time.
The caves back home at Disneyland are so narrow.
Yeah.
I mean, very narrow. Like, you go in there and you're like, what am I doing? I got to get out of here. And if there's like somebody having a meltdown up or behind you in the cave, like, I really got to get out of here because it just gets, it bottlenecks so much sometimes. But the caves here are, I mean, you could drive a truck through them. Like, they're so
considerably
wide.
wider. But that, again, I don't think they originally were.
Yeah.
It's been, the history of the island here is not well documented. So, first time in Tokyo, went to the island, and there's a moment in the caves where there's a thing in the cave that is, I would dare say, very offensive. There is a big stereotypical Native American character face in the rock work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And you go in there and you're like, oh no. And it's like, well, we're in Japan, so no one cares, but oh no. And I was wondering because everything in that park was modeled off of something that existed. So I don't know if that was in the Disneyland one at some point. In ours, even up till yesterday, there were still two faces where you could see a little bit of it in the Injun-Jo cave.
Yeah.
And I was like, did we have the big one and it got removed and they left these two because they're okay? Or did, from 1955 to 1971, sensibilities had already changed.
Right.
And they were toned down for Florida. But honestly, again, because you're talking about a time period where it was hard enough to photograph in the park, people couldn't photograph rides back then effectively. Never mind a dark cave. So, and how many people were photo documenting a children's playground? In the 50s through the 70s, probably not anyone.
Well, it's like I've tried to make videos about the first version of Tomorrowland back home. But the problem is like all of those different sponsored exhibitions they had, nobody took photos of them.
Yeah.
Because cameras didn't work like that.
Yeah.
And the Super 8 home movie cameras, like, low light just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff is only documented in like press photos that have been put in the newspaper, but the newspaper archives are just old paper scanned. So there's like no clarity at all there. So like a lot of that stuff is just lost because it was never documented properly.
By the way, Tom Sawyer Island, there was a continuity bit that I always struggle with, which is it's Tom Sawyer Island, no apostrophe S, right? It's not Tom Sawyer's Island. Unless you listen to the narration on the riverboat, in which case they absolutely called it Tom Sawyer's Island. I don't know.
When you're filming a video and you're speaking in public in front of a camera and your brain's going fast, it is so hard to Sleeping Beauty Castle, Cinderella Castle, Disney California Adventure. And sometimes just because it feels more like proper English, you'll put that S on there, and in the comments, will they remind, it's not Sleeping Beauty's castle. Like, sorry, man, I was just speaking the way I would normally
on a roll.
speak. I was trying to get it done.
I'm sorry that you have no idea what I was talking about because
wrote the
that
whole video.
thing I mentioned doesn't exist.
But like for a long time back home, where the tree house is, one, you could go up in the tree house. Two, for a while, that was the highest spot in Disneyland. And in one of the opening day or opening year special, I think it aired in 55 or 56, they show all of these kids up in the fort with rifles sticking out.
Yeah.
And they're literally shooting at Native Americans that are crossing the river in a boat. And it's just like, you just look at the stuff and you're like, what a different Disneyland, what a different time.
Wow.
So it does all kind of evolve. And I think it's interesting to look at pieces and components of it and kind of know where it started and where it's going. And I love that journey.
Just as an aside, we've talked about this for a long time. I called it years ago that the next thing to go was going to be the shooting arcade at Magic Kingdom. Now, partially because DVC wanted that real estate.
Oh,
but also,
I'm sure Magic Kingdom wanted it gone.
I'm sure they wanted it gone. They stopped selling those guns. Most kids nowadays have their own guns, so I guess they don't need to get their Disney guns. But still at Disneyland, holding strong.
I think it has to stay at Disneyland. I think the Old West and the Western is so intrinsically connected to the reasons that park was built the way it was in 1955.
Right.
As opposed to, I know people kept talking about how Frontierland, that island and the river are the heart of Magic Kingdom. They weren't. We already had gone to the moon.
Yeah.
Like it was there because it's like, they're like, well, Frontierland, that's what Frontierland looks like. Okay. And people said, oh, it's because Roy built the park as it's a love letter to his brother. No, Roy kind of sabotaged the park. All of the people Walt had trained wanted to do new things. And Roy came in and went, no, these things are proven, and I'm a money guy, so
Yeah.
we're going to do the things which isn't. I'm not going to knock Roy. He made his brother's final dream come true.
In a sense, it's
It's
not
wonderful,
sabotage
but-
because he was ensuring the financial
was.
success of the park.
But he should have also believed. Walt believed in those people enough to let them do things. There should have been some fate that a couple of new things could have been done, like. Obviously there's Western River Expedition. There was the Snow Queen ride. There were a million ideas out there for new things. So, if Walt had lived past 1966, do we know that someone at WED wouldn't have been like, oh, instead of the island, Walt, could we do this? And Walt was not the guy. Like, if someone had a new great idea, he was definitely the first person to be excited about
Well,
it.
it's like I got 3 words for you: off-road vehicles
ATV.
Wow. Like,
and Bronco. Sorry, we had a commercial about this last week.
It's funny though, because people always want something different until it infringes on one of their favorite parts of the park. And then there's also this like rose-colored glasses of like, oh man, if Disneyland would have got Discovery Bay. I did a huge deep dive on Discovery Bay, and part of the plans was that all of the boats on the river would become stationary, get converted over to a restaurant. Like Rivers of America would have made it through Discovery Bay, but it no longer would have been like an attraction and a path of passage. So it's like that part of that dream kind of gets ignored, because we got Galaxy's Edge instead.
You hear that from Imagineers, by the way. Some of them old school Imagineers that have been here in our studio for events. A couple of them told me, like, a lot of people talk about Westcott. They're like, Westcott would not have been good.
Yeah.
Westcott was going to be a bunch of shops and places to sell you stuff.
Yeah.
And now there are people still to this day that like, oh, Westcott would have been amazing. And I got Imagineers saying we didn't like what we didn't like what we were having to come up with.
It turns out California Adventure was not terribly far off from what Westcott would have been, except for a couple of architectural details that you and I, love about Epcot Center.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it wouldn't have been far off from DCA.
Space Station Earth would have been amazing.
The 300-foot gold spaceship.
I did the calculate. Jason and I went and did the math, and it was absurd. The volume, so it's 120 feet taller than Spaceship Earth, right?
Yep.
So that's tall. That's a lot bigger.
It's
but
tall, yes.
volume-wise, a sphere, pi r squared, to whatever. It's the amount of. It's like so much more space inside. It's absurd. I forget.
Well,
Somebody could do the equation or whatever and put it in the comments.
Would've
But
been a nice
the
big ride.
volume of that compared to Spaceship Earth is absurd.
How crazy would it have been to stand at the partner statue in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle, look down Main Street, and see that
The top of
that sphere over the top of the train station? Because it would have just like cast a shadow over
yeah.
Disneyland.
And it was gold.
It was gold.
That would have been really weird.
Yeah, I guess every unbuilt attraction is not everything you think it was going to be. I think in a lot of cases, like if Disney's America. That's the other one people go on and on about. And I'm like, they built most of that in DCA, right? Like a lot of DCA was just, what are those things we drew up for that Virginia park? Like the Lewis and Clark raft ride is Grizzly River Run.
Mm-hmm.
Soarin' was there. There was an airfield. That's where Soarin' was born. California Screamin', there was a fair. It was a county fair. All of that got pushed over from Disney's America.
But Mark, as a Long Beach resident, the things that didn't happen.
Disney
pretty
Sea?
smart. Yeah.
I mean,
Disney Sea?
Yeah.
it is proven that one would have been. I mean, there is no doubt that one would have been great. We've seen it. We saw how it turned out.
I mean, and also like one of the things they had envisioned for the Long Beach version, which by the way is where I live, it was going to change with the tide. Like when you would, because it was actually some of it was going to sit in the ocean, in the port, and so when you would come in wherever the tide was at, you'd see certain details. And then as the tide shifted, the park would shift around with the tide. I would have loved to have seen how they pulled that off. And you know how they scale back, like we're not going to do that tide thing anymore. Oh, we're stuck with the tide thing. Like that would have had to have worked or been a huge miss because you can't edit the tide.
I would assume it's what happened. So for those who don't know, Disney Sea in Japan, it's up against the ocean, but the side that's up against the ocean, they built a wall. And in only one of the ports or lands, the wall is part of the story. And so I imagine what would have happened is either that wall would have been built in Long Beach or would have been added after.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what happened. I think they lifted the plan, and then someone there was probably like, no, we do not want the park to be open to the ocean. Please do not do that. I'm sure someone also would have thought, like, the realization had to be made pretty early that real ocean water would destroy thematic rockwork very quickly.
Yes.
Right?
It's not even what ocean water does to rock work.
Yeah.
It's what being next to the ocean does to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like I always joke, like, we need water to live, but water is trying to kill everything.
Yeah.
Because water will just destroy anything. Like some of the I think the engine Joe gave yesterday, like the must and like smell, you could tell of the water damage in there and everything's like, oh, get me out of here.
Yeah.
But yesterday was cool though. I mean, it was like, I was maybe expecting there to be more people, because the internet is like, the internet will make you think that things are more severe than what they are. And yesterday, everybody was in high spirits. Yeah. There wasn't an enormous amount of people there. And I didn't really see any tears or breakdowns. Like, I saw a couple of cast members, which is a little bit different, if
you have lived there every day and you've met your friends through it. And some people, sometimes they meet their significant others and working in those places. So that makes sense.
Riverboat romance.
But from a fan perspective, it was like kind of like a party, and it had a nice upbeat. And I flew out here because I love those community days when like the hardest of hardcore come out to celebrate the park. And I don't know, I thought it was an amazing vibe yesterday.
I think we're in a weird time, right? We're losing a lot of. It feels like you're losing. Like every month, we're going to the closing of another thing.
But it's also like one for every. No matter what age group of fandom you're in, they got us either way. If you were,
you're right.
If you grew up with Magic Kingdom in the 70s, 80s, they took your island away. If you were me, like late 80s, 90s kid, they got your Muppet Vision.
Right.
And then if you're the generation after me, they're coming for dinosaurs. So they got all of us.
So I think it's not just that it feels like we're losing a lot. It's that we really don't know how long we're losing everything. I mean, we're losing these things forever, but how long is this project going to take? How long is your Magic Kingdom vacation going to be disrupted? Because I'm sure a lot of people are planning their vacations around that and going, you know what? Like, I don't know if I want to go to Magic Kingdom right now when there's such a major construction project going on there. And I don't know, that's why I was, with the Muppets and Rock and Roller Coaster, it would have made more sense almost to do the retheme of Rock and Roller Coaster first and open that the day after you close Muppet Vision 3D, because now you get that disruption kind of like bang bang with this. And I
think what studios did instead was the 2 new shows.
Yeah,
it was bring Mermaid back and have a new show, the villains thing back there, right? So they tried to. They're like, we have new stuff. Don't worry about it. Capacity wise, is that going to work out? No, they're going to hurt. That's going to hurt for a while in that park until those are done. But
I've seen the day that Muppet Vision 3D closed. I think we went down there to try to check out the new villain show, and it was packed. And it was like we're going to have to wait like 2 show cycles before we could get in.
Oh wow!
I'm sure that's going to taper off, right? I don't think anybody's taking their Disney vacation just to see these 2 new shows.
No,
or
probably not.
1.5 new shows.
I feel like the diagram on shows is like it's like a YouTube video. Starts up here and then it just dips down,
Yeah.
Especially way worse at Disneyland.
Yeah.
The Disneyland audience, they see the thing once, they're like, oh, we've seen that, we're good.
Except Paint the Night, they just stay for every
Not that. No, Parade's different for some reason. Yeah. Parades and nighttime shows are different there, where it's like every time they go, they want to see that thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's different. But like stage shows, why do you think like that Captain EO Theater's been empty for how long now? And
Over
there's
5
no
years.
rush. There's no rush to put anything in there. And same with Muppets and Filler Magic. Both of those opened and they were, decently full for a while, and then
I just think it's
Ghost Town.
I think the difference is like with having so many locals, like how many times can you watch PhilharMagic or watch one of those shows? So it's like that fall off is like steep, right?
Rides are more
Disneyland
repeatable to people than shows are. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad reality. I think all of us want to support performers and, all that in the parks, live shows. Yeah. But I'll say, like, some of the live shows that I've seen have been really good, but some of them, like, I don't know. When they don't have real live singing, I dislike that for a musical show. I don't like lip syncing.
So Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty
Well, there's
the
some
Beast.
live singing in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, but, I just think in general, like, if I want to go see live performers, it's because when you get a live performer, every show can be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And when they kind of eliminate the live singing and things like that, it hinders the overall product. And I don't know why they don't get that, or they just want to ensure they have the same quality every time. I don't really know.
We've gotten back in a mode where there's live singing and live music in shows. It started with Jollywood.
Yeah.
You know, that big Muppet show at Jollywood Nights.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Tremendous choreography, live singing and dancing and live music. That's wonderful. And we've seen that now with both Mermaid's live singing.
Yeah.
And not that the old one wasn't. And then Villains' live performance too, which is all great. Like I think they got the memo. I think they figured it out.
I'm a little shocked that Beauty and the Beast is still hanging on the way in its current form. It's pretty.
Yeah.
There are some pretty janky moments in that show. Some of their special effects are pretty bad. Some of their costumes look a little rough.
Because it's a 90s character stage show, which there's a very specific, I don't want to say vibe, but there's a very specific formula from those 90s character shows, whether they're Disneyland or Disney World. There was a formula. And it's weird that one has lived so long. Indiana Jones less so, but it's still also weird that Indiana Jones has been untouched in, 35, what are we at, 36, 37 years now?
That's a long time to do a show that has no flexibility. Like it has to be the same way every time. I was late to the East Coast parks, and I never got to see MGM. So going to Jollywood was great because it gave me kind of an idea of what Hollywood Studios was meant to be. There's the ice skaters, there's different shows you're bopping around. I'm like, the Nightmare Before Christmas show, I'm like, this is brilliant. Like, I love that they approve this. I love that the audience enjoys it because it's very abstract.
For a theme park, it is the most abstract,
Yeah, I was like, wow, somebody took a big swing on this and really nailed it.
I went to the very first Jollywood nights, and it got a lot of negative reaction from influencers, et cetera. But there was an overall...
Because they're dumb.
Yeah, but there was an overall
it's
vibe.
won award. Like, look at it now. Like, it's won all these awards. It tests great. I think the truth has won out. But please go
They've
ahead.
made adjustments to it, right? They took some guest feedback. They added some meet and greets. I don't know what they were thinking adding the ice skating thing, but hey, good for them. They tried something new and different. But overall, the vibe was I thought the vibe was really special for Jollywood Nights. I think there was something intangible about it. And I think that was what kind of sets Disney apart, is a lot of times you can go to a couple theme parks and there's something about the Disney one that's special that you can't necessarily put your finger on. Mm-hmm. I felt a little extra touch of something. They reached in and touched a corner of my emotions that I didn't really think about. Yeah. And I think that Jollywood did that. And I don't know why we're talking about Jollywood Nights now, but
because we're halfway to Christmas.
Yeah.
Also, we talked about live singing, and that was the moment for me when we got to that event that first night, and that show started, and I'm like, oh, there's a band, and then the singers came out. I was like, oh, it's like when they cared. Maybe they care again. And I think we've seen that in every little piece of entertainment that has debuted at the parks since Jollywood. I feel like, oh, Disney Live Entertainment is back. Like, they figured out the Moana show, even the stuff I saw at Hong Kong.
Do you think we're getting some entertainment offerings with this Cars and Villains expansion?
I think Villains for sure. I don't think you're gonna have a whole lot in Cars.
Yeah, who knows? They have a family attraction.
Villains has to feel alive, though, right? It has to feel like they're all there. I think there's got to be some weird villains just walking around.
Yeah, the villains, I think, will be fleshed out with restaurant, shopping, entertainment, full land. I think that the Cars area will just be two attractions, maybe that little playground or something other. But the part that I'm most fascinated about, I could wrap my head around the seam between it and Liberty Square, Rivers of America, and Tiana and Big Thunder. But the spatial relationship with Haunted Mansion, I'm just having a really hard time kind of figuring that part out.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Some Villain Street atmosphere.
I think
the citizens of Villain Street.
Not to throw Epic Universe in, but I think the one thing they did so right is Darkmoor feels very alive. And so I think
the place where you're supposed to feel dead.
Yeah. Darkmoor there's the violinists that tell the stories. There's Igor and the bride and the creature.
Invisible Man.
The Invisible Man. Like, it feels, and then the hunters in the tavern.
Yeah.
It feels alive. I think the Villains Land has to be in that vein. It has to feel like, if you're going to make this intricate backstory, which is that whether it's the queen or whoever opens the spell book and conjures all the villains to one place, then it has to feel like we're in that moment and in that place. And not to bring up Hong Kong Disneyland again, but I love their Frozen Land. Their Frozen Land is amazing. Frozen Ever After is a solid attraction, and it more so when it's not built over the Maelstrom ride. But what's great is the backstory of that, the story of that ride. It's a summer snow day in Arendelle, is a really fun premise to play with in a world that people live in. Mm-hmm. So you enter that, and the cast members are the citizens, but on top of that, you have a band that walks around, and Anna and Elsa and Hans and not Hans and Kristoff and the little troll girl Mossy, the puppets out, and it feels like a real place. And also everyone's playing into the fact that you're there for an event, you're there for the summer snow day. And so it feels lived in, it feels real, and it is what theme is. Theme is a time and a place. So the place is Arendelle, and the time is the annual summer snow day. And everything in the land, including the atmospheric entertainment, plays into that. I want that in Villains Land. That has to happen.
Yeah.
Speaking of Villains Land once, I don't, they won't do this. It's like so niche inside my head. But I love the idea of a nighttime show where all the villains are trying to take over the Magic Kingdom. And then they do the Star Tour spy thing. Like, there's like a little kid in the crowd that like believes in magic so much that she shuts the whole thing down. But I just would love the idea of like they're on the outskirts of the park and their dream is to take over the Magic Kingdom. Yeah. And every night they try to overthrow it. And of course, villain rules. They fail every time.
Yeah. I think that'd be great. That'd be great to debut when the land opens. It's like, well, yeah, I think that's the actual story.
Is it?
Is that they've gathered because they're going to try to take the kingdom, which is.
I love that.
That also, I think Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom was that story also, that the villains were trying to take the park. And I think very natural, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think Magic Kingdom could use a real big piece of nighttime entertainment that's not just fireworks.
Well, that kind of storyline gives them the open permission to have just, a conglomerate of villains, and it doesn't have to be the same core three that maybe get blessed with an attraction,
Well, thankfully they said like they released that inspiration list, and I think there's 20-something of them on there. Like Yzma, and there's some deep cuts, and I'm like, look, I agree with you. Like they're not all going to be in every ride, right? But even if those are the ones that end up like walking around, or like they get a store, or they get a food item, like the more villains you tie in, the more connections you make with more guests.
I also heard How You Fly the Millennium Falcon is how the villains will treat you.
Remember that? I remember.
You remember that promise?
They're doing this on the Destiny, right? The Heroes of Villain ship. They have like Cruella de Vil is going to make people like walk the red carpet while she roasts them.
Oh, wow.
Basically, it's going to be kind of fun. They have, I think that's fun. I'd love to see that in the Magic Kingdom. You get a little something different for every visit. You get a little, experience something different.
It should feel like all the villains live there. Yeah. Or at least there temporarily to figure out how to take over the Magic Kingdom. I think that project feels like they're swinging big. And so, I hope that is. I think, here's the thing about Magic Kingdom. It is the most visited theme park in the world.
Yep.
When you visit it, it doesn't feel like it should be the most visited theme park in the world. Because it's not the crown jewel of the Disney empire. It's not Disneyland. It's not Tokyo. It's not Disneyland Paris. It's not as pretty as Disneyland Paris. The attractions are not as impressive as Tokyo Disney Sea. It doesn't have the charm of Disneyland. It lacks, it's not the best in any category. And yet it's the most visited theme park not only in the
Best
Disney
fireworks.
portfolio. That's fair. Can't argue with that. That's fair. It's the most visited theme park in not only their portfolio, but in the world. So the quality should be upped. I think I have big expectations of Cars and Villains, and I think they need to succeed to not only give that park its own unique identity, which I think it lacks at times, but I think people have to go there and feel like, wow, this is the best theme park in the world. And I want that for them. And if the starting point of that is, I hope Disney Starlight is great. I hope that's a good jumping off point for the next couple years. And I hope both of these projects are great because this park has an expectation to live up to that I don't know that it ever has. Maybe in the 70s, like when Space Mountain opened, but Otherwise, I don't know.
I have some trepidation about Cars in general. I think it works great at DCA. Cars Land at DCA is really stunning, fantastic, beautiful, amazing. It's got a great attraction, a couple of fun attractions, but probably my favorite attraction at Disneyland. And
Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. Yeah.
It's way more fun than what
but
you
I
think.
love
Junkyard Jamboree,
I
unironically.
feel like Cars is an IP that would be better served in a different park.
It feels like Hollywood Studios out here.
Hollywood Studios. So I feel like the Magic Kingdom should be, I don't mean to denigrate Cars. My brother's favorite movie, whatever. It feels like the Magic Kingdom should be the varsity squad of Disney IPs, right? This should be the apex of that. And I feel like Cars is Pixar, and I feel like Pixar doesn't bring Magic Kingdom to me. Like, I feel like Magic Kingdom is more classic. And so while I love Cars, and I'm happy to see Cars attraction, 2 Cars attractions apparently coming, I just feel like something more elevated, something more classic should be in the Magic Kingdom.
Let me frame this a different way. Now, California Adventure, Cars Land. Is Cars Land at DCA primarily a land about the movie Cars? Or is it primarily a land about Route 66 and the American Highway, and it just so happens that the Cars IP is in it?
Yeah, it strikes me as more of a celebration of Americana than it does the film franchise, but I'm also not a big Pixar movie guy.
Well, I'll just say this. When you walk in there, and if you've seen the movies, yes, Radiators, it looks like Radiator Springs.
Yeah.
That they brought from the cartoon, but that is a film that celebrates Route 66.
But think about when you
you're
go
in
into
the
those
queue,
spaces, though. But think about the spaces.
Yeah.
When you go into flows, there are Cars elements,
Yeah.
but it feels like an American diner. The music is not from the movies; it's Motown. It's 50s and 60s American music. When you go into Ramones, it's a celebration of that car culture of the customization and low riders, and it's more about that than it is about the movie.
I think more than anything that for an outdoor queue, the queue for Radiator Springs Racers, that definitely has that Route 66 vibe and feel. And I think, only in California could you pull off an outdoor queue like that. I feel like we couldn't have that in Florida.
None of the other ones could.
We would roast and die. But I think in California, especially, that area works so well. And it's a perfect blending of like California car culture and Route 66 and their film that you couldn't hit that mix in Florida. I feel like
you couldn't have that queue in Florida, right? You couldn't have those rides. Mater and Luigi both could not exist in the Florida weather.
Right.
Mater would need a roof, which would, I think, kill it. I think it'd be the end of it. Like, it just wouldn't feel the same.
We did that with the teacups, right?
Yeah.
Or the
feel
original
the same.
teacups.
Which I get, it
Florida
allows
had no
it to
roof.
operate more of the day, which is important. But it killed Alien Swirling Saucers is inferior mostly because that roof, like, it kills it. Like,
It makes it feel just like more like pushed in. I mean, to me, I think that with design, it's all about compromises. And I think the compromise they made with Magic Kingdom and why it's the world's busiest park is they leaned on scale, right? Like, if you really know Disneyland, you feel how much bigger Magic Kingdom is. Like, it's just, it's elongated. And so it loses a lot of the charm. It doesn't have all the attention to detail because it's got extra space. This attraction looks very like condensed. It looks like they're like jamming a lot into that area. When it's actually built and everything's sort of like laid out, I'll be curious, did they go with more of a Disneyland like dense approach, or will it end up having the space that Magic Kingdom typically has with things?
That is one of the coolest things about Disneyland. We've talked about it before, but it's kind of built in layers, like vertically. There's like the monorails going above stuff, and there's stuff above you, and there's stuff to your side, and there's rides that go very near each other that aren't related to each other, but they don't ruin one another, right? And the sightlines are still important at Disneyland, and I just think it's such great like creative design and problem solving through design that it has all that charm. And you're like, how did they do this? Magic Kingdom, like you said, has all the scale. And I feel like Magic Kingdom, I think our Main Street USA in Florida, design-wise, is superior to California, even though California has more charm. I think our forced perspective and scale is just a little bit better here, right? And I feel like it feels more like a real place. I think Disneyland feels like the scale's just slightly off on Main Street USA, even though I wouldn't change a thing there, right? And I think in Florida they nailed a lot of the things they could nail.
Yeah.
I just feel like you lose a little something when you have that much space and you don't have to problem solve, because only the smartest people can make something cool and solve those like space issues at the same time.
I was one of the last people to leave Main Street last night at the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
There was like maybe 5 people left, and I was looking at it and I go, Disneyland's Main Street feels like a train village. Like it's shrunken down enough to where it feels animated, and I love it. But I was looking at the Main Street here last night. I'm like, it really does feel real. Like the proportions are just enough to where it fools you, I think, way more than Disneyland ever could.
I think when you go to Paris, because the Paris facades are the Florida facades, and then you see those interiors fully realized. They're like, one is a house, and one is this, and one is that, and you're like, oh yeah, and they feel real.
Arcades.
And what's funny, that park, Paris, that park is a love letter to Anaheim.
Yeah.
But the one thing they took from Florida was Main Street. But and that's how I feel about Magic Kingdom. Is like, I love our Main Street. I think our Main Street is the only part of our park that's better than Disneyland. And then all the other lands, I'm like, no, I like them better at Disneyland.
Oh, our Tomorrowland is better. I'm sorry.
They both suck, but yeah, I agree with that.
I don't acknowledge
I
either.
agree.
I don't know if there's any Tomorrowland I really like other than, like, even my favorite Tomorrowland is still like, I don't know. They're all kind of.
I do feel like Main Street USA at Disneyland almost feels like a tilt shift video. You ever remember those tilt shift where it looks like you're in a model?
Yeah.
I
It's so charming, though, that scale. And that's why I love Hollywood Boulevard at Studios, because it's that Disneyland scale. It's the cute little intimate scale. There's a magic to that, too. But they really nailed. I think the one thing they absolutely nailed in 71 in Florida was Main Street. And you had to, because you were building that castle.
The scale of that castle is really interesting too. Sort of that vertical. It feels like stretched, and it's such a great setting for the fireworks.
Yeah.
And really, I think the fireworks at Magic Kingdom and that setting of leaving through the best, or a great Main Street. It's not better in Paris, okay, but that really draws you, makes you have you can have a miserable vacation. And you leave the last day and you do Happily Ever After and walk through that Main Street USA. You're gonna want to come back.
Oh, it's a great kiss goodnight. And I mean, the hub at Magic Kingdom is just, I love it. It's funny to see what got sacrificed once they took the swan boats out, to create those parklets, the green space and stuff. Yeah. But just the idea that the hubs have transitioned into being outdoor amphitheaters, and then Shanghai is the greatest example of that. Where they literally we're going to build an amphitheater and put a castle in the middle of it.
It's a land.
Yeah,
the hub is a land,
and I love that because it's a real community space. And like last night as I was going around the outer edge on the Adventureland side, and I was just looking at everybody watching the fireworks, and when the big boom goes up and you just see the sea of people all doing the same thing, it's great, man. I love it.
There is something about it. Yeah,
there's something. And back to Rivers of America, right? Some of my favorite moments in Magic Kingdom involve that, right?
Yeah.
Some of it is going down when it was Splash Mountain, and also as Tiana's have done it, when the fireworks are going off and you're going through that ride.
Yeah.
And then you even maybe hit the drop when the fireworks are going off and you're looking over Rivers of America, and maybe the riverboat is out there lit up.
I was going to say Big Thunder when you pop out of the cavern and the riverboat was there, that surprise moment.
Yeah.
That was always cool.
And those are the things that you can never time, right? My greatest trifecta is coming out on Alice at Disneyland with monorail going by and Paint the Night. And I'm like, I just hit the trifecta.
I had a moment on the cruise, believe it or not, where we managed to score a brunch reservation at Palo. Look, Palo brunch is great. Everything's great. And it was on a sea day, and it happened to be our reservation was right as we were going through the Messina Strait. So in between Italy's mainland and Sicily, that picturesque, I'll never forget it in my life, right? And it was just an accident of timing.
Yeah.
We happened to be going through there for the entirety of our brunch, looking at Sicily pass by what looks like only a couple miles away, and the mainland Italy on the other side. I mean, and I've had a million of these at Disney, and all of them really stick with Seven Dwarfs Mine Train during fireworks. If you've never done that, you got to do it.
Yeah.
It's a totally different, as opposed to the old Splash Mountain or Tiana's Bayou Adventure with the fireworks, which is picturesque and thrilling and fun. it's almost unhinged when you're on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and the fireworks feel like they're going off right above your head, and you got to do it.
Well, what makes the park so special is that it's all about timing, right? And like no two trips are the same, no two visits are the same, and it's all on the timing. Like the most memorable moments you had was just because you happened to be there when like two guests did something memorable, a character came by, or you were at the right spot when the fireworks went off. Like it's just so unpredictable.
That's why it's repeatable for so many. That's
100%.
why everyone watching this right now, you've been a million times and you'll keep going because of what you just said.
Yeah, share those memories in the comments too, because I'm sure people have them. And I think that's one thing where it's hard for me to evaluate a new park like Epic because I don't have any indelible memories that were made at Epic, right? I don't have my entire life history of visiting this park and making memories yet.
Sure.
And so the Magic Kingdom has that sort of leverage over any new competitor that
Your
comes
home
along,
park will always have that. Yeah.
right? You're going to have like a million memories. Hey, here's where my mom did this, or my dad did that, or here's when I saw my first, I met my first character, or here's a million things that people.
They
think
literally picked out my name when my mother was pregnant at Chefs de France. What career choice did I have? Given the way I was raised, and even before I was born, what was happening, there was no option.
They picked that. It's your father's name.
Yeah, but they decided I was going to be Christopher. My name was actually going to be Christopher, and they decided to go with Tom instead. Thomas.
Chris Corliss. He sounds like a movie director.
Or very close to the guy in Soundgarden.
Yeah, exactly. So now we enter this unknown period where there's going to be massive amount of construction, a lot of disruption to the park. I don't know what has happened so far in the 24 hours, or less than 24 hours since
Very minor.
this close. I don't know when they're going to start. I don't know if they've moved the riverboat backstage.
Yeah.
Did they already move it?
Supposedly tomorrow it's going on its journey.
You kind of have to do that fast, right?
Yeah.
You got to just kind of pull off the Band-Aid and get it out of there.
Get them out there. They take it. It's a cool moment though if you ever see it when they take it. They take it through Seven Seas Lagoon. They take it over the water bridge by the Contemporary. They take it around backstage Bay Lake.
We were thinking about getting a Bay Lake Tower room just to just stay up all night and watch and see if it happens.
Can I please have the bad view? They're like, why? You're like, because I want to see the boat get.
We have a park view.
Going.
Can we? I want to look at Bay Lake. Can we? That being said, I will tell you, my favorite view from Bay Lake Tower is not the park.
Yeah,
it's Bay Lake. That sunrise on Bay Lake is
it's beautiful.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And whether or not you see the Liberty Bell, you'll at least see the actual Magic Kingdom ferry boats every morning.
Yeah.
They begin that journey as the sun's coming up and you see that shadow
Yeah.
on the water and the sun. And I know everyone keeps going on about how, we're losing the river and the riverboat. We've lost all that natural beauty. There is a natural beauty that is not replicated at any other theme park resort in the world, and it is in front of that park. As we rode the ferry boat yesterday to the park, all I could think was, you guys say you're going to miss it. It's here.
Yeah.
It doesn't even require park admission.
You rode the ferry
You
boat?
ride the ferry boat, and these are real islands covered in natural beauty, and there's all this wildlife out there, and all this energy, all this boat traffic going by, and
It's
the water
amazing.
pageant, and the hotel guests, and the monorail. That's the magic of Disney World. Is not only our resort hotels, it's the Seven Seas Lagoon and Bay Lake. It is unlike
reveal.
anything anywhere. And that castle, and there were first-time guests next to us walking to the ferry boat yesterday, and I got a little choked up, so did Rosanna, because the kid goes, oh, you can see the castle, and you look across, and it looks like it's so much farther away than it is.
Right.
And you're like, that's magic. Look at that magical, unreal place that's across this lake.
I have to share
unbelievable.
another magical moment when we were filming a show called WDW WDW After 5, where we hit all these bars. And it didn't make it in a video edit. I don't know why, but there was a mistake made in the editing of that video. But we were at Geyser Point, right? Enjoying a drink, filming a show. Then the water pageant comes by. It's dark now. Water pageant comes by. Water pageant finishes. Immediately, SpaceX rocket goes up right behind it. Like, how incredible is that?
Yeah.
It was so cool. Such a cool moment. And yeah, I think Walt Disney World is amazing because of this size and scale of the place. And there's so much left to do, right? There's so much unknown. It's going to be so cool to watch this happen.
People asked why like we weren't very defensive of the rivers of America. But then like that Polynesian Tower and the Lakeshore Lodge that are happening, we're very much up in arms. And it's because I think that's what needs to be protected. That's the part of the thing Walt was adamant about was no, the park's going to be removed. The parking lot's going to be here, and this is going to be over there, and then there'll be all this space between these resorts, so they feel separated from each other. And now, what we're doing currently is we keep encroaching on that. Like Fort Wilderness used to feel like you were really far away from everything,
Right.
and now they've cleared all those trees, and the Contemporary is very clearly there. And then even worse, behind Pioneer Hall, there's 10 stories rising behind what's supposed to be an outpost, on the edge of civilization.
Yeah.
And then the Polynesian, same thing, where it's the Polynesian and the Grand Floridian used to feel a world away from each other at times, and now instead it feels a little Vegas Strip. Like I'm at the Polynesian, and then I'm immediately at a different thing, and then I'm at another thing, and then, like there's no that green space between
Just
going
the
away.
feeling of being contained in this place is important. I mean,
Yeah.
Not to denigrate Disneyland, but you walk out of there and you walk right into a Denny's and a Tony Roma's
dude.
and a bunch of trashy
The
motels.
magic of Disneyland is not outside of the gate.
Right.
It's
Well,
definitely
it's a different
not.
kind of magic,
But I mean, there was a time where any ride you were on at the Disney World, all you could see was Disney World.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they have that over anybody. Any of their competition, that are look, Epic has had to build sort of an additional parcel of land. You go up, high up there, you see a million things that aren't part of their property, right? You see Orlando, you see, parts of undesirable parts of Orlando sometimes. And I think that Disney World
It's
has
in an
that.
undesirable part of Orlando.
Yeah.
Actually.
When I started coming here, though, to your point, the thing that blew me away the most about Walt Disney World as a resort was the connective tissue. And still to today, my favorite attractions are I love riding the Admiral Joe Fowler over Seven Seas Lagoon. I love taking the monorail into Epcot, and you loop around the back there. Like I know the parks, and I'm in the parks a lot, so that kind of feels familiar to me. But the connective tissue of how you can just literally spend an entire day and just wander around and go from resort and use the monorail as
You don't need an annual pass.
no. You can just ride thing from thing. And, whenever my friends and family come out here and we do that trip, we always have a resorts day. And I just, I know how to get around and use all the different transportation and stuff. And they just absolutely love that. So, I think the best part about the Walt Disney or the Magic Kingdom Railroad is when you actually go out front of the park
And look out. Yeah.
and you see the lagoon and the Contemporary. Like we don't get that back home because we got dinosaurs.
Hey, I like the dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs are sick, dude.
You still have a better railroad than us.
Yeah.
But that front part of it, though, like
Yeah.
it's just mind blowing. Everything that's all around you, you just tell yourself like, this is all part of the bubble. This is the theme park.
That's the magic of Disney World. It's not our parks. Our parks are, at times, they've been very special. I don't know that they are currently, but the thing that you cannot erase is our resort experience is unreal.
Oh, it's
And
great.
It's never been replicated.
Just the whole idea of discovery, like to sit there on that train and look out and go, man, there is so much to discover here.
Yeah.
There's so much, Mark, that you come out here a lot and you've done a lot. I guarantee you there's so much you haven't done.
My goal is just to do one new thing every trip.
Yeah.
Because that's how much stuff there is. And anybody who's never done it, you've got to rent the pontoon boats and drive around seven seas on your own. Like I can't believe they let people still do that.
I miss the sea racers.
The
We used
water
to do
sprites?
The sea racers out there. Yeah.
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 Yeah, those were great. You used to be able to rent them at Disney Springs, and you could go all back in those canals to
wow.
Port Orleans and
Wow.
all those places.
There was a little more exploration at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, but in general, the amount to discover,
Oh, yeah.
Tom and I have done more than most people here. There are things, not many, but there are things Tom still has
Still
not
have
done.
a handful. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are things that I
Victoria and
haven't done.
Albert's.
Well, that's going to be remedied very soon.
Very soon. Yeah.
I have a list of things back home that I haven't done just because I still want to have things to celebrate.
Yeah.
Never rode Sailing Ship Columbia.
Oh, really?
Never. And I want to really bad, but I'm just holding on to it because I want to have something to celebrate.
Wait till I come out there because I've never ridden it. I don't think I've, unless I might have done
What
it when
are
I was
you
a kid.
guys doing?
I might have done it when I was a little
What are
kid.
you doing? What?
I've reading it for crying out loud.
She's like 5. Oh, I love the Columbia.
Yeah.
I do too. I think it's beautiful, but I like the idea of like holding something in my back pocket to be like,
That's a big one.
yeah.
Though.
That's what makes it like a real.
It's not like
holdback.
an off the beaten path
No.
thing. That's like a mainline. That's an attraction at Disneyland.
I love boats. I love vibe rides. Like it's everything I love, which is the best reason why to hold it in my pocket. I can't wait to do it.
Wow. Are there any
Yeah.
other attractions at Disneyland you haven't done?
So I'm not positive if I have rowed the canoes. The rowing canoes.
I love the canoes.
I think I did it when I was real young,
Yeah.
but I can't say for sure. Is there anything else I've not done?
One of my favorite Disneyland memories of all time, my parents' first trip. Well, my father had been in the 70s when he was in the Navy. My mother's first time. And like the first day, I don't know why the first day was like, she sees the canoe go by and she goes, oh, there's canoes. She remembers we had them here. She's like, there's canoes. I was like, do you want to do it? She's like, my mother has had knee problems her whole life. And so I don't know if she can get in the canoe. But
Yeah.
the way she lit up, she's like, yeah. And we went and we did it. And she just laughed the whole time. And we get off. She goes, that's my favorite thing we've ever done. And I get even a little teary-eyed just thinking about the canoes at Disneyland right now, because there's a magic to that attraction.
You're so low to the water.
Yeah.
You have to navigate around the big boats. And what people don't know is the bottom of that boat is waxed so well that it glides.
Yeah.
Like it's not if people are like, well, that was a lot of work. I'm like, what else do you do then? Because like it's not that much work.
LA people are lazy. I don't know if you know. No, here's I mean this with all due respect. At Disneyland, more than any other park in the world, you hear people complain about how much they walked.
Yes.
They always complain about how much they walked. And I'm like, this park isn't even that big. What are you talking about?
Well, with Disneyland Forward, there's a lot of concern about, the new parking garage.
Yeah.
And like people want a tram or a monorail. And I'm like, guys, it's the length of the bus passage right now. Like it's maybe a half a city block further. If that's a deal breaker for you, then I guess park over Mickey and Friends.
I just don't. It's not a long distance to walk. It drives me why I can't understand. Everywhere at Disneyland, there's always someone complaining about walking, and I'm like, guys, it's not that far. Like half the time, I don't even want to take the tram. I just want to walk to the. I'm like, I don't even want to get involved in this tram thing. I just want to get there.
I have 3 more attractions I have not done at Disneyland.
Oh,
Gadget, Go Coaster,
that makes sense though.
Emotional Whirlwind,
That also makes sense.
and Grizzly River Run.
I've never done that one either.
I can't argue any of those 3.
I've always said, you'll know that I've stayed in the Grand Californian for the first time when you see me ride Grizzly River Run.
Yeah.
And I've also never done the Astro Orbiter, but that's more of a motion sickness problem that I
Yeah.
have. But I do want to do it at some point because I like it looks cool how high you go and, you're right by the castle and stuff. But yeah, that's my trifecta back
It's
home.
pretty lame. I like Astro Orbiter here, not the vehicles; they're uncomfortable.
No.
But where it is, like being that high, is pretty neat.
But I hold them in my pocket. Like when Disneyland reopened up after the pandemic, I was like, it's now time to like do one of these. And I rode Dumbo for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like,
I like Dumbo.
It was awesome. Like that was the last thing I did before the park closed at 7:00 that day, which was a shock in the system for California. It's like, if it's not open till midnight and Main Street's not open for an extra hour for my shopping convenience, what are we doing here?
Oh man.
My favorite ride out there is called Din Tai Fung.
Oh, I call that DTF.
Din Tai Fung.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's not a weird list. I no, like Grand. Whenever I stayed at the Grand California, we always used to do this is it. We'll go do Splash Mountain, and then we'll go do Grizzly a few times, and then we'll go change.
Yeah.
Because both of those you get destroyed.
I'm not staying at a hotel, so I'm not driving home with wet shoes
No,
and
I get
pants
that.
and all that stuff,
I get that. That's
Get a
why a lot of people
poncho.
don't do Tiana much.
Let's
at
do it. We'll
Disneyland.
get ponchos. We'll ride Grizzly River Run.
Man, I rode Tiana one time back home,
Yeah.
and I got drenched. I'm like, all right, that was one and done, baby.
No, the Disneyland, that ride is
Crazy.
insane the amount
It's a
of
day
wet that you can
ruiner.
get.
Yeah.
And, luckily for us, like I rode it when they opened it, and they decided to open it up in like November. And even though it doesn't get that cold back home, it still gets chilly.
It was cold.
I'm
It
not
was cold.
positive that I've done the Disneyland Smuggler's Run.
It's
the same,
totally
right?
different. You're really missing out.
There's different 4-year-olds that are your left and right pilot on that one, I heard. So.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys think that next year when they're promoting Mandalorian and it varies the mission and you go through places that we actually realize, you think that's going to be a game changer for Smuggler Run? Like, do you think that'll get an injection?
There's a
back into
reason to be
it?
the engineer.
Characters people like, and multiple destinations, and
Yeah.
that's going to realize the potential it never realized.
But the engineer gets to choose the destination.
They'll see that someone
So
will actually want that.
There's
seat for
actually a
once,
reason to be the engineer.
Oh, yeah.
You get to talk to Grogu too,
Yeah.
which is probably all anyone actually wants. Like just sit there and he'll just make baby noises.
Gaga,
at you, and
goo,
you're
goo.
like- people are like in a dog fight, and you're in the back like goo goo goo. They're like we almost died, and you're like coochie coochie coo.
I never thought about it
I
that
fed
way.
him a macaron. He liked it.
It's interesting though because like with this evolution, they're basically giving Millennium Falcon the competitive advantage that Star Tours has had over it. You know, because Star Tours has the different destinations and has the varied flights and stuff. But 2 summers ago, when they did the Disney Plus promo on Star Tours, it just didn't generate the audience. Like it never really got pegged out to see the new show sequences. So I think this might be another nail in the coffin for that ride.
Yeah.
I love Star Tours, though. I think at Disneyland, it definitely feels superfluous at this point. I thought it would at Studios, but I think Studios just has so little in it that it still feels necessary.
It's just weird. It's in its own little corner. There's nothing really around it. It
But
always
it
has
is
a 10, 15 minute.
legitimately still my favorite Star Wars attraction.
Really?
It's that and then Hyperspace Mountain
Wow.
and then Rise.
Wow. Deep cuts.
Hyperspace. Hyperspace is permanent in Paris it is, but it's a totally different thing. In Hong Kong, though, that's the Disneyland Space Mountain, and it's permanently hyperspace. And so
Wow.
you get to experience it whenever you want there. I really like hyperspace. There is this weird thing where because they're from the same era, that Star Wars and Space Mountain are both of the same year, that they share the aesthetic. And so it feels right. It feels like it should always be. I know people get mad at Disneyland. They're like, bring back the regular Space Mountain. I'm like, no, just leave it. It's better. Just leave it. I love that Michael Giacchino score. I love it. But you could just leave it. It'll be okay. It'll be all right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to turn this into a conversation of Galaxy's Edge and why we don't.
What did you think of Ghost Galaxy?
That's different. I love it just because it was weird.
Very weird.
And the fact that they gave him a name, like people named him Bob the Blob. There was a weird, Eric. Ghost Galaxy is about, it's a cosmic being of some kind. It's just a collection of like solar energy or I forget what he's supposed to be. But it's just this creature made of like
Energy.
galaxies and planets and
Gravity,
stars and and it just chased you through the ride, and they named him Bob the Blob. That was the fun nickname everyone gave him.
It was
and
way more graphic than what you would imagine. Like the monsters or the people that were like to scare you, whatever Bob was.
Yeah.
Way more graphic and gruesome than what you would imagine in a Disney park.
he was pretty dark for Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's like Alien Encounter. It gave me Alien Encounter vibes, especially what was happening like out on the mountain. Like there'd be like a green grid, and then there'd be static, and you'd hear like monster noises, and like kind of like Monster After Dark is a similar vibe too.
Yeah.
They're very much in the same vein. But I think it says a lot that at some point Disneyland just said, you know what? I don't think it's a big coup to have this as part of Halloween time. We should, even Hong Kong got rid of it, and that's where it first debuted. It started in Hong Kong.
Oh, that makes it make more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they both canned it because it was weird and not loved. So.
Well, we've been on quite the journey around the world today. But I wanted you guys to be able to give your final thoughts on Rivers of America and what you experienced yesterday. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we wrap this up?
I just think Brickey already said it. I think it was a much smaller crowd than anticipated, which I think tells you like people were okay with going anytime in the last couple months, and having a more personal goodbye.
Yeah.
As opposed to Muppets, where everyone felt like that had to be shared. Like that felt like everyone had to share that love together in person. And that's why the craziness that was everyone going into that final show, but hundreds of people standing outside of for the riverboat, it made sense for people to stand along the river and watch as it went. But for Muppets, like you couldn't see what was going on inside. So people just stood. They're just like, I have to be here.
Yeah.
I have to stand outside this building knowing that the last show is playing in there and Heather Henson's in there watching it. And I don't know. I think it tells you everything you know that people love the Rivers of America and the Riverboat, but I think for the most part, the world understands that time has passed that by and something new has to be done. Not saying that Cars is the answer.
Right.
But something had to happen. As opposed to Muppets, where I think there was this full agreement from a lot of people that, man, how could you take Jim Henson's final work away? They're two very different closures. And Dinosaur will be a whole different thing from both of those.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Dinosaur closure is going to be like, but it's going to be a very different vibe from both the Rivers of America and Muppet Vision, I think.
Yeah, Tom and I were both fortunate enough to be on the last cruise. But I debated, I'm like, do I want to be on the boat or do I want to watch the boat? Because it's one of those attractions that it's kind of like if you're having fun, it's cool, but you also love watching other people have fun on the attraction.
That's like Disneyland, the Mark Twain, right?
100%, yeah.
You just want to wave.
I mean, maritime
Like you're in
law,
Japan.
you have to wave.
It was like Japan yesterday because you waved at the boat and the whole boat waved back. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I like that when people do
I did
that.
it the other day. I wasn't able to go yesterday, but
It was great. Yesterday was great. It was one of my
Yeah.
favorite days ever at Magic Kingdom. The park was quiet. There wasn't a ton of people there. The people who were there seemed like they were there for the right reasons. It was a real community day. Thanks to everybody that came up and said hello to me. I appreciate making a lot of new friends. Like, I sat on the bench last night for 15 minutes because I didn't want the day to end. It was just one of those days, you know?
Yeah, it was a real positive. Muppets was more positive than I thought it was going to be too.
Yeah.
Where I think everybody knew we were all sad together, and that somehow made everyone feel okay.
that day was cathartic for me. I didn't
Yeah.
expect it. Like, I don't like these days. Like, I don't like the goodbyes, right?
Yeah.
But the Muppet Vision day was like cathartic for me. Like, I did it a couple times, and I was like, I feel good about the experiences I had here, and it was more of a celebration than it was a funeral. To me, like, I expected it to feel like a funeral, and it felt like a celebration.
Yeah.
I think the one that will go down as the weirdest one in history books will be Splash, just because it got dragged through political and, America was pretty divided in that moment. And it just like when you see people that went there and documented that day, that will probably go down as the most bizarre one.
It sounds like the Disneyland one was way weirder.
I was there
That's the story I've heard.
I was there for the final day at Disneyland, and after watching Adam's video and kind of seeing what the documentation was like, I was there ready for just an all-out Disneyland freak show.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of really mellow and non-ceremonious, and it's like something that Disney does, and I was a little bit depressed that they didn't do this last night, but letting the cast members be the last ones that gets to experience the attraction. It's such a great community moment, and it makes everybody so happy. So seeing the last raffle of cast members yesterday, and all of the servers and workers over at I'm sorry, what's the Mexican
Pecos.
Yeah, they had cowbells and they were making noise
that was
and
cute.
they were cheering them on. There's just those kind of moments. And I was really bummed out last night that after all of us got off
They didn't do that.
the Liberty Bell, that it didn't do a cast members only lap around.
It's
the,
weird
Hand
because
you
they
a
did
cowbell.
it. It's weird because they did it yesterday for both the island and the railroad.
Yeah.
So the railroad's final full loop was all cast members, and then Tom Sawyer raft, same thing, was a raft full of cast, and then the riverboat, which is the most natural one to have a big group ride, they didn't do. That was weird.
I was really hoping for that moment because it would have just been it'd been like Fantasmic.
I was going to say the end of Fantasmic.
But real people, not
Yeah.
fake people,
Yeah.
real heroes, not fake heroes. So that would have been cool.
I agree. I totally agree.
Well, it's been a fun discussion, guys. I'm really sad I missed it, but also things happen and life happens, and I almost had to go to the ER.
I mean, what happened?
I smoked a tri-tip, and then I
Was this after you literally messaged me saying I might end up in the ER and you showed me the knife? You actually ended up cutting yourself?
Yeah. It was like an instant to the bone like one where it split open. You're like, uh-oh. And then luckily, like, Lee was right there to help me get some direct pressure on there and everything. It's going to be fine. I'm not going to need stitches, I don't think. But.
This is why it's great to fly across the country to go to the Disney park that you don't live by. Because, like, I was all in it yesterday. I didn't have to get home to let my dog out or life responsibilities. Like, I was just sitting on Main Street last night. Like, I don't want the day to end. I text Eric in the morning, like, you going to MK today? He's like, I don't know, man. I've been thinking about knocking out this tri-tip.
Yeah.
Like, I love the locals' perspective when it's your home park.
Well, Lee had to work, and then there was supposed to rain in the afternoon, and then none of that didn't really happen.
No, it was a beautiful day.
Yeah. So
it did
by
feel...
that time, I thought it'd be a madhouse, and apparently it wasn't.
That was the real thing that got me yesterday was the weather. There's no way in July in Orlando that both of those attractions should have operated their full day. And in fact, the day before they did not.
Yeah.
Like the island closed early due to lightning. And yeah, it rained for a little bit yesterday, a couple like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But neither attraction closed. They ran open to close. That doesn't happen in the summer in Orlando. So someone somewhere was looking out. Maybe the hand of Walt was involved. Like, it's like, no, we're having one last good day here on this river.
I do want to give a shout out to somebody I saw yesterday, though. It's like for everybody who's like, oh, kids today are soft and they don't play outside, they don't do things. Like I did in this very podcast. I saw a mom yesterday who's like, I'm going to raise this baby to be tough. And during that downpour we had, a woman with a baby on the front of her went across the Barrel Bridge. And I was like...
You have a video of it, don't you?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm like, that mom is like, I'm raising this kid
Is that on your vlog that you're editing right now?
I got her and the baby and the papoose like loaded up, like, or baby Bjorn, like getting ready to go across because I was too sissy to leave the cave that I was in.
That was bad rain. That's the kind of rain I have the umbrella and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I have an umbrella, I'll be okay. Shoes might be wet, whatever. Even that reached a point where I was like, okay, I have to go in the store now.
Yeah,
we were sideways and it was as hard as it could be.
Oh, there was a squall that came through for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
I live right behind there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was as intense a rain as you could possibly have for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We were right at the end of the cave, right where the bridge, crossing starts, and we just kind of stopped. And I was watching the people come by, and so I'm filming people in the rain, and then I look up, and I just see the baby, like, on the front of her, and I'm like, she's taking a baby across the Barrel Bridge
in a monsoon.
In a monsoon. Go, Mom, go. Shout out to that mom.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. We've had a blast. We're going to get back on our regular schedule of Tuesdays for the podcast. Yeah. And Tom and I have a lot to film. We'll be at Disneyland next week, but we will
Can't wait.
Get an episode into cam before we go. We'll be there for the Walt animatronic. There's just always something new.
I'm already crying.
Right? It's gonna be that. If no tears were shed yesterday, they're gonna be shed next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's
I
always
appreciate
a pleasure to have you when you're in town. And we'll see you next time on the WDW News Today podcast.
We'll see you real soon.